Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, everyone. So we'll be having a Bhagavad-gita class now, from 6 to 7, and then after the 7 is Gaur Arati. So please do remain for the remainder of the class. It's really important to listen. It's really important to absorb ourselves in some element and some aspect of Shastra, of wisdom. Why? Because it helps us to deepen our relationship with Krishna. So how can you know the source of your love when you don't know who that person that you're loving is? So therefore the Bhagavad-gita is meant to be a wisdom to help us to understand the mind of Krishna. And when we're able to do that, then we're able to develop relationship with Krishna. So I really do encourage you that if you don't have anywhere to go, then just stick along. Is that fair? All right, great. Okay. Interesting. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Do you know this prayer? Just clap along then. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Your turn. Louder, all together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Hare Krishna. So can I just request a favor? Everyone that is sitting behind me, if it's okay, let's all just sit in front so I can all see you and we can have an interaction and dialogue. Otherwise, I'm going to just feel a bit nervous. There's someone behind me. I don't know what you guys are up to. Yeah, and it's just a bit more personal, you know? Thank you so much. Don't worry, I won't ask you any question, at least for the first 5 minutes. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to a Bhagavad-gita class. Believe it or not, we're a couple of verses away from finishing the Bhagavad-gita, and then we're starting off from chapter 1 again. Yeah, so it's nice. You know, they say that when you read the Bhagavad-gita again and again and again, your level of realization goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's really important hearing. Why is it? Why is it that our level of realization goes deeper and deeper and deeper? Because we get to experience the Bhagavad-gita more and more and more and more. So it's really nice. You're not the same person today that you were tomorrow or yesterday, were you? We're always evolving. And so therefore our realizations and reflections are also evolving. That's why the Bhagavad-gita is the essence. The more we read it, we can never get tired of it. So yes, we will be going through chapter 1 again. But yeah, today we'll be reading Bhagavad-gita, chapter 18, verse 30. So if you have the Gita on your phone, I would highly recommend that you search up chapter 18, verse 30. Text 30. So chapter 18 is entitled the Perfection of Renunciation. And we're reading text 30. So I'll just read it in Sanskrit and then the translation in English, the transliteration and the purport. Prabhupada is so amazing because you see the Bhagavad Gita can sometimes feel and seem very difficult to understand. So what he has done throughout the 700 verses is that he gave not only translation but also transliteration. And not only transliteration but a purport. Because you see the reality of our nature is that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So when we're reading the Gita, if we have a lot of contamination, you can say a lot of cloudiness of judgment and decision and inability to be able to understand things as they are, then we can actually sometimes misunderstand. And it's happened many times. Many people have read the Gita and they've used it for their own personal gains, reasons. So therefore, Prabhupada has given us a translation but also a purport to understand better and further what it is that we're trying to read and understand. So I'll just read it in Sanskrit and then, yeah, we'll move on. Pravritim cha nivritim cha kaya kaye baya baye bandam moksham cha yaveti buddhihi sa partha satviki. Pravritim cha nivritim cha kaya kaye baya baye bandam moksham cha yaveti buddhihi sa partha satviki. Pravritim cha nivritim cha kaya kaye baya baye Bandam moksham chaya veti buddhihi sa partha sattviki. Does anyone want to have a go? No? Okay, let's read the transliteration. This time you'll all have to follow. Pravritim. So repeat after me. Pravritim, doing. Cha, also. Nivritim, not doing. Cha, and. Karya, what ought to be done. Akaye, and what ought not to be done. A little bit louder. Baya, fear. Abaye, and fearlessness. Bandam, bondage. Moksham, liberation. Cha, and. Ya, that which. Veti, knows, with a little bit more enthusiasm. Buddhihi, understanding. Sa, that. Partha, O son of Pritha. Sattviki, in a mode of goodness. So, translation. O son of Pritha, the understanding by which one knows that ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Performing actions in terms of the directions of the scriptures is called pravriti, or executing action that deserves to be performed, and actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the spiritual directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in a mode of goodness. Okay, so we'll do a little prayer of invocation, seeking for the blessings of the Vaishnavas, the devotees of the spiritual master. You see, my dear brothers and sisters, friends, the Bhagavad-gita is not an ordinary book. So therefore, this discussion is not an ordinary discussion. So much can be taken with us that we can take with us through the next this 2023. The Bhagavad-gita actually has so much answers to our challenges, difficulties, both materially and spiritually. And when we harness it with the right mood, the right prayer, the right invocation, then we actually gain access to so much understanding of Krishna, of why we're going what we're going through, and how we can actually tackle and overcome our challenges. But if we just read it as a mundane book and we just feel like we're just having a normal discussion until Guru Arti, then this book will always remain just as that. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, to the degree that you surrender, I reward accordingly. So if we treat this book as something very special in our lives, something very central in our life, then it can actually provide us with so many solutions to all of our perplexities of life. So we must read it in the right mood, we must understand it in the right mood, and yes, we must discuss in the right mood. So we'll start with a little bit of prayer and then we'll get into it. Om Jnanatimandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyachade Chatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Repeat after me. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is a very interesting verse. One of the first thing that really comes into my mind is, by the way, I may ask some questions, or if you do have any questions, please do let me know. One of the first thing that really comes into my mind in this world is how we're all looking for the right things, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. The modes of material nature are practically something that governs all aspects of our life. Rajaguna, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. So here it says, O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows that ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is not to be feared and what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. So one of the first things that we really need to understand is our activity and what it is motivated by, what it is influenced by. So what I want to start with is, so we're looking for the right things, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. When we're a child, we have what is time, we have what is health, but we lack what is wealth. When we're like an adolescent, we're in our adult ages, we have what is health, we have what is wealth, but we lack time. And then when we get to old age, we have time, we have wealth, but we don't have health. So you see, practically all the time, we're looking for a situation where we can be comfortable, where we can be happy. But actually, happiness in this material world means that we all want to perceive certain events in our life as we expect it in order to fulfill us. So like I said earlier on, actually, Krishna here is trying to say that we must understand things as they are. But our tendency, our nature is that we understand things as we are. So we need to make that distinction. We need to make that discrimination. Otherwise, we live our whole life perceiving things as we are, and as a result of it, we get very unexpected outcome from that. So it's really important, and that's why reading the Bhagavad-gita is so important. Chanting is really important. We all have a very different psychophysical nature, but not only that, we also have conditionings. There's a saying that says that tell a lie long enough, it becomes a truth. A truth long enough becomes a culture, and a culture becomes a tradition. Every one of us in our life, there are certain impression that has been left on us based on incidents, events that has taken place. And so therefore, factually, it's very difficult to say that we're living our authenticity. We're living a genuine life. We're living a life that Krishna wants us to live. Because we all have a different understanding of what that really means. Based on our culture, based on upbringing, based on a lot of things. So what the Bhagavad-gita is meant to be doing when we read it in the right mood, when we try and understand it in the right mood, when we have these sort of discussion, is there to kind of break us from a reality that we perceive to be reality, but in reality it's not. Does that make sense? So what the Bhagavad-gita is meant to do, if we read it in the right mood and we have a healthy discussion like this, it's meant to break us from a reality that we think is a reality, but it's not a reality. We all have a very different conception of what reality means. But the only reality that really is real is Krishna's reality. Otherwise, factually, most of the time, we're living in illusion. Is that clear? So, okay, let's try and kind of provide very practical examples of this. Really and truly, chapter 18 of the Bhagavad-gita is there to teach us to be more selfless. We live in a world where we are at the center. And practically every scheme, every decision, every choice is centered around how is it convenient for my own fulfillment? How is it convenient for my own happiness? How is it convenient for my own satisfaction? But actually, it's really amazing that when we put Krishna in the center and also we become more selfless in our relationship with those around us, the result of it naturally is that we become fulfilled. Because what are we really doing? When we do what is called seva, when we do what is called service, we're watering the root. Often in life, what we do is we try and water different part of the trees. So we try and do different activities in order to experience or receive the very same results. So an example of this is that, for instance, in a relationship with our spouse, often we may think that if someone loves me, if someone really genuinely cares about me, if someone was best for me, then they'll do this, this, and this. They'll tick this box, that box, this box. Or with our children, they'll get the right degree, they'll get the right qualification, they'll do so well, and that is the cause of my happiness. Or maybe with our boss, with our colleagues, our staffs. That if I get this promotion, if my boss kind of levels me up to this stage and stuff like that, then that brings me a sense of happiness and fulfillment. But what is the problems? What is the dilemmas of all this? So first and foremost, this is not the mode of goodness. This is more the mode of passion. And the thing is, the reality is that when we have that level of expectation, there's 4 things that we can expect: futility, insubstantiality, temporality, and then what's the last one? Temporality, and what is it? Futility, insubstantiality, temporality, and duality. It's temporary. Any form of material happiness in this world is temporary. So it doesn't last. In life, we may work so hard in the mode of passion to, acquire certain results, to accomplish certain goals. And even in spiritual life, it can be like that. But the thing is, the reality is that first and foremost, that form of happiness is temporary. Not only is it temporary, then it's insubstantial. We may achieve certain things in our life, and then we think to ourselves, what's next? The irony of life is that we work so hard towards a particular destination, a particular goal, a particular thing that we think will fulfill our life, that will give our life a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. And when we get there, our expectation turns into disappointment and frustration. It's insubstantial, and we've all experienced that at some stage and some point of our life. So not only is it temporary, not only is it insubstantial, it's futile. And whatever we work hard for, there's always a flip side of the coin. So much struggle, so much difficulties, so much challenges. So the question is really, Krishna, in chapter 18, what we're really focusing on is that, we have a choice of whether we want to choose to be selfish or selfless. Rather than thinking, how can I be in control? How do I see that Krishna is in control? And how can I render a service that helps me to develop a mood of selflessness? When we develop a mood of selflessness, what happens is we become humbled. We become more compassionate. We become more loving. And this is factually the nature of who we are. Trying to find happiness in this world is like finding unnatural happiness in an unnatural world. So that's the question. How can we be more selfless in our daily routine, in our day-to-day life? And then when we become more selfless, then we're able to slowly transition, gradually move our way into the mode of goodness. Am I clear so far? Yeah. Yeah, precisely. Precisely. So inside every single one of us in our heart, we have different seeds. And we choose every day what seed we want to water. Do we want to water the seeds of selfish desires? Or do we want to water the seeds of spiritual desires? We have that choice every day. And what usually gets influenced by those seeds is our activities. Sometimes we may feel like, oh, I don't want to do chanting, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But if our whole life we wait for a feeling to do something, then we will wait for a very long time. If we just wait for an inspiration, then that inspiration may never come. But if we actually do something, even if the inspiration is not there, eventually, gradually, the inspiration will come. So we have a choice every day. Do we want to water our selfish desires, or do we want to water our selfless desires? So that's something to think about. And that's the question. The thing is, it's like, what is genuinely happiness? What is happiness? So if I were to ask you to identify a lamp in a dark room, would you be able to find that lamp? No. You need to know what the room looks like, where everything is. And then it's like, even if there's a bit of darkness, you'll be able to at least have a sense of a clue or idea where you are, what you're doing there, and how to get to your destination. And so similarly, in order to really understand what happiness is, we need to find the right guidance. And the right guidance, finding the right guidance means finding not just someone that loves you and someone that cares for you, but also someone that can help you. And not just help you in any means, any way, but help you according to Shastra, according to what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Someone that can help you spiritually. Because most of our perplexities, most of our challenges, most of our difficulties comes from a lack of understanding of who we are, why we're here, and how to establish our relationship with Krishna, and what is the means in doing so. So it's important not to just find someone that cares for you and loves you, but also someone that can spiritually help you. Someone that can spiritually support you. And that's why we find ourselves in community like this. You know, to coming to the temple, listening to class, chanting, reading, hearing. All these are activities. With the right support, with the right guidance, it can really make a transformation in life. Because what it is that you're making that adjustment internally, not externally. No matter how troubled we are, how perplexed we are, how challenged we are, if we just simply focus on making external adjustments for our internal feeling of lacking something, then we'll always remain lacking something. And no amount of external solutions, resources, equipment, and things can fix that. So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of actions. Never consider yourself to be the cause of results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So therefore, it's really important to understand that based on what Krishna is trying to say here is that real happiness starts from living in a world where we are not the center. That's very difficult, isn't it? So, but that's where real happiness starts from. And you know, Radhanath Maharaj once, he says something that people in the reality is that in today's world, people use people to get things. They think is that things will make them happy, rather than service that will make them happy. So therefore, factually, we see so many times that people try and kind of manipulate a situation in order to use people to get things. And the result of it is more disappointment, more frustration, lack of trust. Lack of trust in Krishna, lack of trust of oneself, lack of trust in others. So, Krishna then says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Text 68, the devotees are always in my heart, and I am always in the heart of the devotees. The devotees does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotees. There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch, and therefore they are very much dear to me. So how can we understand Krishna? How can we get into the mode of goodness? Is by choosing to surround ourselves with people that are in the mode of goodness. How can we understand Krishna? We can understand Krishna by associating with those that do know who Krishna is. Prabhupada uses the example, the analogy of a rod. When you take a rod and you put it in an icy environment, it becomes icy. When you take that same rod and you put it in a fiery environment, it becomes fiery. So that rod is like conducting whatever it is in its environment, whatever it is in its parameter. And similarly, we're also the same. To understand genuinely who Krishna is, especially in 2023, you know, I tell people that time is flying by. You know, how many more of these classes are we going to listen? How many more of a time of a reminders will we need? How many more times, you know, do we need to hear the instruction again and again and again before we think, you know what? You know, for us, 100 years may seem like a very long time, but on a grand scale of things, it's like a second. And before you know it, time is gone and your time is up. So how much more of these classes do we need to hear before we really seriously decide, Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki, Shishi Sitaram Lakshma Hanuman ki, Shishi Gornitai ki jai. Before we decide that, you know, perhaps maybe it's time that I've developed some depth to my life than just, you know, attending temple once in a while, doing this, doing that. How can I be more consistent in my activities? And even if I'm not attending the temple every day, at least how can I develop some depth in my own personal life and my personal relationship with Krishna? Yamaraj once came to Maharaj Yudhishthira and he said, what is the most fascinating thing in this world? And he said, the most fascinating thing in this world is that every single day I see people that die, but they don't think it's going to happen to them. Practically every day we hear of people passing away. Now it's become more frequent and more regular than ever before. But yet we think, okay, I've still got some years behind me. So we need to understand Krishna. We need to develop a relationship with Krishna. And how do we do that? By associating and spending time with those who understand and know who Krishna is. And when we can do that, then they can transform our lives. We must become like a rod, ready to absorb positive spiritual environment and nature. And Krishna said to Arjuna that the reason why he revealed this most important confidential knowledge is because Arjuna was a friend. So you see, devotees are not ordinary. They're never out of touch with Krishna. They're always in touch with Krishna. And so therefore we need to remain in touch with them also. We need to find some time to associate with the Vaishnavas, with the devotees, associate with the books. It's really, really important. And not only associate, but also service. Association, but what it is that when we serve the devotees, when we serve the Vaishnavas, so Krishna said, that is because you are my friend. So therefore, when we befriend the devotees, when we befriend the Vaishnavas, when we befriend the books, Srila Prabhupada's books, then what happens is that knowledge becomes revealed to us. So the point I was trying to make is that this is not a process of gyan. Sometimes people think, let me come to the temple and let me learn as much as possible, and that's going to help me to become more devotional. But not necessarily the case. There's some level of elegance in simplicity, and Krishna consciousness is very simple. Srila Prabhupada said, it's simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated. We don't have to be highly philosophical. We don't have to be very intelligent. We don't have to know everything. But if we practice with some level of devotion, some level of love, some level of connection, then that is our qualification. The qualification is not how much you know, but it's what you're holding back in terms of your mind, body, and speech. Sometimes, and that's why people get put off, because they think, I have to know everything. But no. Whatever you do, do it with love and devotion, and that's sufficient. Of course, Shastra, reading, chanting, hearing, all these facilitates for our ability to be able to do service nicely, to be able to live a righteous life, a spiritual life. It helps. It's like a young student that wants to learn a piano. Of course, they must go through some level of books. They must have a teacher. And when they have that, then it helps to be able to have some level of expression in how to play the piano. Similarly, it helps to be able to read, to chant, to have a spiritual teacher, because it allows us to have some level of expression in our devotion. Otherwise, it becomes very ritualistic. Am I clear so far? Any question? Okay, so I'll move on a little bit. So earlier on, I was mentioning about the futility of just, thinking that our endeavor alone can help us to become more spiritual. So the thing is, when we think that we are in control of our own spiritual success, it leaves us feeling more complacent and more proud. It's right? When you think you're in control, what happens? You become proud. You become complacent. You feel like, I don't need to change anything. I don't need to do anything. I'm good as it is. I'm good as I am. When we think that we are in control of our difficult situations and circumstances, it leaves us feeling angry and blaming others when we lose control. When we think that we are in control of our own spiritual life, like I was also saying earlier on, it leaves us feeling hopeless instead of hopeful. So you see, actually, in reality, humility is understanding that Krishna is always in control. And when we understand that Krishna is always in control, and that's what real mode of goodness is, performing your activities and duties, but being detached from the results, knowing that you're not the controller. You can only try your best and try it sincerely. And when you do that, then it's like no matter the circumstance, no matter the outcome, you'll always feel like you've gained something. You'll always feel like actually you've progressed, you've moved forward. Otherwise, what it is Maya is so amazing, because what she does is that she tries and leaves us in a situation where we feel so disconnected, so secluded, on our own, alone. And then in that scenario, what happens is that we feel like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough. And then we try and look for alternative ways to fulfill ourselves and make ourselves feel happy again. So therefore, we must always remain in a mood of humility, humbleness. We must realize that no matter how hard I work, in the end, really is down to Krishna's control. And if a situation is not meant to be, then what can I learn from it? So we mustn't just try and go through life, but we must try and grow through life. That's something that we can try and do in 2023, but in a Krishna conscious way. So Krishna says to Arjuna that, therefore get up and prepare to fight. After conquering your enemies, you will enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachin, can be but an instrument in the fight. So it's amazing in this particular verse of the Bhagavad-gita, in this particular chapter, what Krishna is basically trying to say is that we can become an instrument to him. You know, they say that whatever you resist persists. So therefore, Krishna already has a plan for us. And if we simply allow ourselves to become an instrument in that plan, what happens is in the end, we grow, we mature, we develop depth. We develop some real spiritual bliss and abundance in our life. Srila Prabhupada once said that I have my plan, you have your plan, but Krishna has his plan. So how do we understand the plan of Krishna? It's quite simple. It's through the process of chanting. It's through the process of hearing. It's through the process of associating. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Remembering. And when we are able to do this, then we can understand how to position ourselves in a way that we become an instrument in the mission, in the mission, in the movement, in this world, in a way that, we become an instrument, an agent of difference making, an agent of change making. And that is every single one of our responsibility. We have some obligation when we come to the temple, we're hearing these scriptures, we're chanting, we're reading, we're hearing, we're associating that, I go out there in the world and I make a real difference through my character, through my behavior, through the way I conduct myself. And that comes through a mood of being a servant. I'm just going to move on a little bit. One of the things is, so when we're in a mode of passion, when we're in a mode of ignorance, we're always thinking about is our own sense of happiness in this world, our own sense of enjoyment. So now here's a thing that says in Shastra. The happiness of this material world is really futile because there's always these three things that we're perplexed by. What is that? Do you want to know? Are you all with me, by the way? So I know if it's a kind of a very calm voice, it can make some people fall asleep. And if you have a question, please just raise your hand. I'm happy to answer. So what are these three challenges? What is the futility of happiness in this material world? Is that actually, there's three types of suffering that we're always regularly going through, which is the suffering of the mind. Our mind has this cancerous disease of criticizing, always comparing, always competing. So our mind is always like causing us so much suffering. One moment there's happiness, another moment there's distress. We're always kind of comparing, like this life, that, this, that. We're always competing. When we look at our loved ones or whoever it is in our life, it's like, oh, they've achieved this, they're here, why am I not here? In spiritual life, this person, it seems like they're progressing more in their spiritual life than I am, what's going on? And then we kind of get very critical after that. We start becoming judgmental. So this is the suffering that our own mind causes us. It's called over-catastrophizing. We take a situation and we make it bigger than what it is, because we don't know actually how to get more into our reflective state. So therefore we remain in our repulsive state. Again, just to remind, so how do we get into our reflective state? Srila Prabhupada has written so many books on that. Krishna has given us so much instructions in how we can do that. The answers are there. The thing is, if we're looking for the answers, we'll find the answers. But if we're not looking for the answers, and we just want to be cheated, then we'll be cheated. The question is, what do we desire? Our desires is what gives fruition to our activities. And what will we do about it? Then there's the suffering of the body. Even if our mind is good, one person once said to me, I don't need to read these books, I'm happy. My life is good. But then, okay, even if the mind is good, what about the body? The body evolves. The body actually, believe it or not, is deteriorating. Year after year after year after year. We're in 2023 now. Give it another 4 years. We're growing older and older and older. And as we grow older and older and older, there's more possibility of disease coming into our life. So then there's the suffering of the body. And even if our mind is okay, our body is okay, how can we escape the natural calamity of the world? Earthquake, tsunami, war. So many problems in the world. Very difficult to get away from. This is the futility of the world that we're living in. And yet we're hankering for so much happiness in that world. And then they say that actually one person's happiness is another person's distress. That is Rajagun. That is the mode of passion. All we think about is our happiness, but we don't realize our happiness could possibly be causing suffering to others. So, we've been given a very good fortune, a very beautiful fortune, a very powerful fortune. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that, and this is 151, Madhya Leela. Among all the living entities wandering throughout the universe, one who is very fortunate receives by the mercy of the spiritual master and the mercy of Krishna the seed of devotional service. We're all very fortunate. We get to spend some time in the temple. We get to read and have a discussion from the words of a pure devotee, spiritual teachers to help us make sense of life. A senseless life is a purposeless life. But when we read, when we study scriptures, when we try and understand the words of the devotees, that actually starts instilling some level of purpose. And then we realize that suffering isn't meaningless. Suffering doesn't have to be meaningless. Every once in a while, just like Arjuna had an existential crisis, he had a moment of doubt and insecurity. Similarly to him, we go through that and we can make a meaning of that. And the meaning of that is, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is not just eating and sleeping and, just performing these ritualistic activity just for the sake of it, because our grandparents did this, their grandparents did this, their great-great-great-grandparents did this. No. How do we bring some liveliness in our spirituality? So we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to be in this human body, to be in this world, at this time, in this moment. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? If I give you a reward or whatever it is, okay, you can look at it, you can appreciate it, you can admire it. But what are you going to do about it? That's the real value of life. What will you do about it? So, and we may think to ourselves, but I don't know what to do. But that's fine. Then Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that I am in your heart. I am situated within your heart, and from me comes remembrance and forgetfulness. From me comes remembrance and forgetfulness. So it's not even an excuse of I don't know. It's not even an excuse. They say that the 3 enemies of growth in spiritual life is I'm too busy, too comfortable, too busy, too comfortable, and too proud. Too busy, I don't have time. Too comfortable, I'm just okay with my life. And too proud, I already know this. You know, sometimes people see the Bhagavad-gita, I already know this. I've already read the Bhagavad-gita 15 times. Prabhupada said, what's the use? Okay, you've read the Bhagavad-gita, but are you living the Bhagavad-gita? Just reading it is not enough. You can read it 100 times, but what transformation has it made in your heart? What transformation has it made in your character? How has it helped you to develop depth and relationship with Krishna? So no. You may be proud of reading the Bhagavad Gita 15 times, but are you living the Bhagavad Gita 45 minutes? So these are the enemies of growth. So therefore we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to be here. We're very fortunate to have spiritual teachers, to have spiritual guidance. So many people want this so badly, but you guys have it so freely. But what are you going to do about it? We mustn't take this for granted, because it may take another few millions of lives before we get to this stage again. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the supreme truth exists both internally and externally. In the moving and non-moving, he is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. So Krishna is so close. But are we perceiving him? There's a saying that peace is not the absence of chaos, but it's seeing everything in relation to Krishna. Krishna is so near. It's so difficult to really understand that because we feel like he's so far. So here's a poem to think about. Sometimes we may feel like Krishna is very far because he hasn't answered our prayers, because we don't feel like he's reciprocating with our devotional service. So here's something to think about. I asked for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things that I might enjoy in life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I had asked for, but everything that I had hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am among all men mostly richly blessed. So this is the thing. Sometimes we may feel like Krishna is not reciprocating with our answers or with our prayers in accordance to how we want it. But then how can we try and understand things from the way Krishna wants it? Often we're the ones going to Krishna and asking, but what does Krishna want? How is Krishna trying to help us? Krishna is also a person, isn't he? He also has a mind, a thought, a plan for us. So where is Krishna trying to guide us? The most supreme intelligence, what is he trying to guide us to? So this is something to think about. Instead of being disheartened and discouraged, and how can we get more reflective and slowly, gradually move our way to the mode of goodness? So Prabhupada says in one purpose, all these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, it becomes like nectar in the end. So just to kind of summarize it, the question is that how can we become more Krishna conscious rather than self-conscious? Sometimes there's a saying that we need to become more self-conscious, but how can we become Krishna conscious? Especially I was saying that it's the first week of 2023. Some of us may feel more inspired than usual to take a little bit deeper step in our spiritual life. But how can we actually continue fueling that? How can we continue sustaining that, maintaining that? We must also understand that to some degree, we're driven by result. Human beings are driven by results. And if we're finding and feeling like we're not experiencing results, then we get very discouraged and very disheartened very quickly. So therefore, to feel inspired is one thing, but to act upon that inspiration through activity and, we're experiencing some level of result in our life is another thing. And that's very important. So one thing that we can start asking ourselves, I'll just give two examples, is that one of the things that really helps, especially in my times of living in the ashram and even now, is that how are we resting the night before? You see, spiritual life, our Krishna consciousness doesn't start in the morning, it starts the night before that. So it's really important, what consciousness are we resting in? Most people, before they go to sleep, they're on their phone, either on the news or WhatsApp or some social media. And then that actually affects you the very next day. It affects your consciousness. It affects your relationship with Krishna. It affects how you perceive things. Because that's what's overriding, that is the dominant thing that is taking up space in your consciousness, in your mind. So perhaps one adjustment that we can actually make is, what consciousness are we resting in? So Bhaktivedanta Swami, he gave this very wonderful advice, that one thing that we can do is that before we go to sleep, maybe half an hour, before we go to sleep, read something. Whether that is the Bhagavad-gita or some small book from Srila Prabhupada or Krishna book, but read something. Let that take up space in your consciousness, because that's helping you to become Krishna consciousness. So that's one thing that we can start implementing very immediately in our 2023. The consciousness in that which we rest. Try and avoid going on your phone late at night. Try and avoid going on news or social media. Instead, read. Srila Prabhupada has given us so many books. Read and let that take up space in your consciousness. Let that transform your consciousness. And that's what's going to help you to become Krishna consciousness the very next day. Another thing that we can ask ourselves is, what is the quality, what is the habit of your eating? Krishna, in the modes of material nature, he also mentions that, there are food in the mode of passion, food in the mode of ignorance, and food in the mode of goodness. So at what time of the day are we eating? In what consciousness are we eating? And what flavor of food are we eating? So if we're eating food that is in the mode of passion, things that are too spicy, whatever you can guess. But food in the passion, then there's a tendency that we're going to become a bit more passionate than usual. If we eat food in the mode of ignorance, so what is that? So you've cooked something and you've left it for hours and hours and hours in the kitchen, and then you decide to reheat it again and eat food of ignorance, then the tendency is that you're going to become very lethargic, very lazy, very uninspired. And then there's food of mode of goodness, vegetables, fruit. So these are things that I can explain this and go in more detail, but this is a homework that you guys can do. Go through the Bhagavad-gita, understand food in different modes, sleep in different modes, activities in different modes. What is the result? If everything is just given to us on a silver plate, then we don't appreciate it. But when we do some research, study, and also, we apply nididhyasanam, we take some level of application, some level of responsibility for our spiritual life, and not just for our own spiritual life, then how can we expand that to other people's spiritual life? Then that helps us to become more Krishna conscious. It's not just about how can I progress in my own spiritual life, but how can I serve and help others to progress in their spiritual life? That creates a transformation in our own heart. And last or not least, what are we instilling in our mind? It's like sometimes we may think, a little bit of watching football here doesn't hurt anyone. A little bit of going to the cinema there doesn't hurt anyone. Do you see, there's two options, pain of discipline or pain of regret. Every day, whatever choices we make compounds to an outcome. The question is, what kind of outcome do you want? A short temporary enjoyment can become a lifetime of regret, a lifetime of a consequence. So what may feel good right now, it may feel good and you may do it, but later on it can get consequential. So we must discipline ourselves. We must practice some level of self-discipline. And that self-discipline is what's going to bring us real happiness. With that being said, I think we're just literally a few more minutes, but these are things to think about. Things that we can meditate on more. With that being said, thank you so much for your time. Antara Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki. If you have any question, I'll just be outside. You can ask. There's no time for questions, but please, if you do have a question, then I'll hang around for 5-10 minutes and then you can ask. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Adi Gauri Chamara Chulaya Mara Adi Gauri Chamara Chulaya Samjata Kunda Vasu Roshi Adhikaya Samjata Mukunda Vasu Roshi Shanta Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Bhaje Karata Shanta Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Bhaje Karata Madhura Midanga Bhaje Mara Mara Sala Madhura Midanga Bhaje Mara Mara Sala Shanga Bhaje Ganga Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Ganga Bhaje Madhur Bhaje Shanga Bhaje Ganga Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Bhaje Ganga Shanta Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Shanta Bhaje Ganta Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Aho Koti Chandra Jiri Vadana Ujala Aho Gavate Sheva Namala Kore Jaramala Galate Sheva Namala Kore Jaramala Shiva Shukana Radha Preme Gada Gada Shiva Shukana Radha Preme Gada Gada Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gora Sampada Bhakti Vinoda Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gora Sampada Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaurachan Nardatika Shobha Jaya Gaurachan Aratika Shobha Jagnani Tatavane Jagamanavobha Jagnani Tatavane Jagamanavobha Gaurangera Rodik Shobha Jagamanavobha Gaurangera Rodik Shobha Jagamanavobha Gaurangera Rodik Shobha Jagamanavobha Pisaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinani Vishnupadaya Krishna Pisaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sundavari Pashketari Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Bhaktavedanta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radhe Radhe, Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radhe Radhe, Jaya Sita Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Lakshman, Jaya Sita Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Lakshman Hanuman, Sita Hanuman, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivrajakacharya Statarashvachi Shimad Bhachiran Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlad Lad Daini. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha, Narsimha Madhim Sharanam Prapade. तब कर कमल भरी नाखा अद्भुत श्रृंगार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनु भृंगा केशवधृता नर हरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरि जय जगदीश हरि जय जगदीश हरि जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रील प्रभुपदा निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की गौर प्रेमानंदे
I was thinking, like, were you standing there all that time?
I think, yeah, like you literally saw me after 10 minutes, and when you turned, then I noticed you, that you are, that this is the
Yeah, I was at home literally, yeah. Oh no. Sitting down. I woke up.
And you know, like you could see that how sincere they are and how they are able to because Krishna indicates with their sincerity. And they're so sincere, they're so pure souls, and they're so enthusiastic. They're all over the place. The first person who came, the person who came was first, he distributed 5,000 books.
It's Prabhupada's ruin. No, 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 it's not. 7:30, no? 7. Isn't Gora Aarti at 7:30? We are getting confused. Yeah.
7:30 when they close to check the
Okay.
and now the next one.
Cool. Thank you. If I am fine, I'll give you another one. As well as मिलता है यूज कंपनी
ठीक है
फिर नेक्स्ट टाइम when I use the powder
श्योर थैंक यू सो मच सर क्या नाम था इसका
ginger juice because ginger shots कर दो
ओके थैंक यू प्रभु
You know where to put this? Where? Yeah, on that cover. Could you do that?
या
Please. Because otherwise, morning program tomorrow, this is here, and people are going to have a Thank you so much.
Cambridge. How long you staying? How long?
And we're staying for one tonight
Yeah.
and tomorrow.
Tomorrow you're going. So tonight you're staying.
Yeah, we want to come to the Bhavana Aarti tonight.
Okay. So 9 o'clock will be Aarti here from 9 to 10 past 9. And then Prasada. Krishna. Where's your husband?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Oh, Prabhuji. No. You come in. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Gokula Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. 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 Jaya Gaurav Nitai. 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 Jaya Prabhupada.